Sarah Wilkins stormed into Sweet Dreams Bakery 15 minutes before closing, designer handbag swinging wildly from her arm. The bell above the door barely finished ringing before she slammed a photo down on the counter. "I need this exact cake for tomorrow," she announced to Maya, the exhausted baker who'd been on her feet since 4 a.m. When Maya explained that custom wedding cakes required at least 2 weeks' notice, Sarah's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Do you know who my husband is?" she snapped, name-dropping the city councilman. "We're hosting the charity gala of the season. I don't think you want the publicity of disappointing us." Maya started to apologize again when the bakery door chimed. A tall man in an expensive suit walked in, his face lighting up with recognition when he saw Maya. "There's my favorite baker. How's my sister doing today?" Sarah's complexion went ghostly pale as she realized the man was Jackson Chen, the city's beloved mayor and her husband's boss. "Is there a problem here?" Jackson asked, noticing the tension. Maya explained the situation calmly. Jackson turned to Sarah with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mrs. Wilkins, isn't it? Funny, I was just discussing with your husband how important it is for my administration to support small businesses and their policies. I'm sure you agree." As Sarah stammered through an awkward retreat, Jackson winked at his sister and whispered, "The council meeting tomorrow just got more interesting." Rebecca Morgan considered airport rules to be mere suggestions for ordinary people. Striding past the economy check-in line, she approached the first-class counter with the confident aura of someone who expected the world to bend to her will. "I need an upgrade," she declared, sliding her economy ticket toward the airline attendant. "My original seat is completely unacceptable." The attendant, Zara, smiled professionally. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but first class is fully booked today." Rebecca's smile tightened. "Look, I have a critical business meeting, and I simply must have space to prepare. Surely you can find someone to downgrade." When Zara apologetically stood firm, Rebecca escalated, pulling out her phone. "I have over 20,000 followers. One negative review from me will cost this airline more than your annual salary." A distinguished older woman in line behind Rebecca cleared her throat. "Excuse me, but I couldn't help overhearing. Perhaps I can help." Rebecca turned triumphantly, expecting an ally. Finally, someone who understands the situation. "Oh, I understand perfectly," the woman replied, her British accent crisp. "I'm Victoria Hamilton, head of customer experience for this airline. Would you mind showing me your social media accounts? I'd love to see the influence that apparently trumps our boarding policies." As Rebecca's face flushed crimson, Victoria continued with glacial politeness. "While you pull that up, shall we discuss the section in our terms of service regarding passengers who attempt to intimidate our staff?" Elizabeth Harrington believed waiting was for people without her connections. Arriving 20 minutes late to Lumiere, the hottest restaurant in town with a 3-month waiting list, she swept past the line of waiting patrons. "Harrington, table for 4, she announced to Jules, the maître. When informed her table had been given away, according to their 15-minute policy, Elizabeth exploded. "This is outrageous. We're meeting the Whittingtons. They're potential investors in my husband's firm. Do you have any idea how much business we bring here?" As her volume increased, her 3 embarrassed friends tried to calm her, but Elizabeth was on a roll, demanding to see the owner immediately. "I'm right here," came a voice from behind. A man in his 30s stood there, tattooed arms crossed. "Marco Alvarez, we spoke on the phone when you made this reservation, and I personally explained our late policy." Elizabeth faltered. "Well, there was traffic and—" "The same traffic that somehow didn't delay the 12 parties who arrived on time?" Marco asked mildly. "Including Mrs. Whittington, who's been enjoying her appetizer for the past 10 minutes after asking us not to wait." The restaurant fell silent as Elizabeth's phone buzzed with a text from her husband. "Deal's off. Whittington's left. Call you later." Marco smiled sympathetically. "Our sister restaurant down the street might have openings. They're excellent for networking opportunities." Margaret Wilson, clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield, marched across the cul-de-sac toward the corner house with its riot of wildflowers and vegetables. a flagrant violation of Oak Meadows' strict ornamental plants only policy. "Mrs. Chen," she called, "this simply won't do." Dr. Mei Chen, still in her hospital scrubs after a 12-hour shift as the city's top environmental health specialist, looked up from her tomato plants. "Good evening, Margaret. Is there a problem?" Margaret thrust a violation notice forward. "The Homeowners Association requires you remove these vegetables immediately. They're unsightly." May smiled, gesturing to the half-dozen neighbors happily collecting tomatoes, zucchini, and peppers from her garden. "That's interesting timing, considering the Urban Garden Initiative I'm heading for the mayor." "Rules are rules," Margaret insisted, "and as HOA president." "Former president," interrupted a voice. Their neighbor Ted approached with tablet in hand. "Special emergency meeting last night. We voted 28-1 to amend the bylaws and, well, you're looking at the new community garden center for the neighborhood food share program." Margaret sputtered. "That's impossible. You need my signature too." "Actually," May said gently, "we discovered the HOA was never properly registered with the state. Ted here, our retired contract lawyer, helped us file the correct paperwork yesterday." Pamela Thornton had spent decades perfecting the art of the return scam. Today's target: returning a clearly worn designer dress to Luxe department store for a full refund, tags reattached with a tiny safety pin. "It's defective," she told Alex, the young sales associate. The seam started unraveling immediately. When Alex pointed out signs of wear and makeup on the collar, Pamela demanded a manager, voiced rising with practiced indignation. "I spent thousands here. Check my account." The manager, Imani, arrived promptly. "Mrs. Thornton, how nice to see you again." Pamela's confidence wavered at Imani's use of her name without checking IT. "I've been reviewing your purchase and return history personally," Imani continued pleasantly. "In the past year, you've returned 47 items valued at over $18,000, all worn and all after major social events." Pamela's mouth opened and closed silently as Imani slid a folder across the counter. "Our new computerized inventory system is fascinating. It cross-references social media. Your daughter's Instagram has been particularly helpful. All those photos of you at events wearing these unworn items." Imani's smile remained professional as she concluded. "We've taken the liberty of notifying our sister stores in the Luxury Retail Association. Your returns privilege has been suspended across all member stores. Will that be cash or credit for today's purchase?" A small crowd of associates and customers who had suffered through Pamela's entitled behavior in the past tried unsuccessfully to hide their satisfied smiles as she slunk toward the exit, unworn dress and maxed-out credit card still in hand.